Come on, Rockfin, do your thing. Come on, Rockfin, any day now. Always gotta be late. Thank you. All right, let's do the damn thing. Doobie-doobie-doo. Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. 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 I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. Doobie-doobie-doo. Salvati. Hello. I was just dancing there a little bit. Happy Tuesday, guys. Welcome to Sabby Sabs podcast. I'm your host, Sabrina Salvati. If you are new, I want to let you know that Sabby Sabs podcast is a part of Revolutionary Blackout Network. You can catch me there on Thursday for the roundtable and Friday for the Sabby show. And you can catch me here Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Friday. Quick shout out to everyone watching on YouTube, Rockfin, and Twitter. So excited, guys. I'm having a really good week. Not necessarily YouTube-wise, just personally. I'm having a really good week. I feel well-rested. I feel well-rested. Apparently, I'm not having a good week. Oh boy. Anything can happen when you go live, right? Want to give quick shout outs to people in the chat. What is going on? Notori says, love you, Sab. Love you too, Notori. I like your picture too. What's going on? Pitchforks are coming. Never vote blue, no matter who. It's funny that only seemed to apply when it's not a progressive candidate. Have you noticed that? Because vote blue, no matter who wasn't a saying when Paula Jean Swearengin was running against Joe Manchin. Just saying. Shout out to Joe, says, hi, perfect people. What's going on? Afrux Jojo says, dim out. Shout out Miguel, says, peace. What's going on, Lawrence? Always great to see you. Says, hiya, Miguel H. Lawrence is also a Sabby member. Shout out to Gamer, says, hello. Greetings, Angela, says, happy Tuesday, everyone. Hashtag Sabby time. I like that. Sabby time. Shout out to Greg, who's a Sabby member, says, hey, lefty peeps. What's going on? Pirate Alex says, hey, guys. Shout out to Joe OWS. Joe Biden got out of Afghanistan just to continue forever wars in the Ukraine and now Somalia. Is there any wonder? The Secretary of Defense is a Raytheon board member. Well. Shout out to Ken. She says, hey, Sabby, I just want to tell you, Anna has completely backtracked on what she said about the demo rats. You was spot on. She pretty much telling us again to vote Democrats again. What I tell you. Shout out to Oz, says, wash hands. What's going on? Bitter Almonds says, doobie-doobie-doo. I love almonds, by the way. I don't even drink, I haven't had regular milk in like years. I drink almond milk. Shout out to Eric, who's a Sabby member, says, hi, Tuesday to all lefty friends. What's going on, Danny? Says, lady in red. I was feeling a little red today. I was feeling it, like, let's get out there and do the red thing. Shout out to Mr. Perfect is Perfect. Says, hi, Sabs. And that's Mr. Perfect, the wrestler. I remember him. What's going on? Malik says, hey. Hi, Malik. Shout out to Morgan, says hello. Greetings, Steve, says hello, Sabby. Yasmin. Hi, everyone. Happy Tuesday. Happy Tuesday to you, too. Shout out to Wesley Whole Wheat, who's a Sabby member. So glad to finally be a supporter of your show. Love you, Sabby. You're amazing. Thank you so much and welcome. Let me know how you found me. I used to ask people that and then I stopped asking. I don't know why, but These things happen. Want to give a shout out really quick to everyone who is a Sabby patron. Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate your support. If you're interested in being a patron, I have 5 categories: members, Sabbies, Sabsters, Sabinators, and Ultimate. All of their names are listed here. You guys truly rock. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And you can see their names scrolling across the bottom of the screen on the ticker, on the ticker. All right. What are we talking about tonight? Let me go ahead and share my thumbnail here. All right. Tonight, we're discussing Joe Rogan is called out. Yikes. Wait till you see what I'm going to play for you tonight. I don't know what's happening to Joe Rogan, but this needs to be said. So I'm going to talk about that. Also going to discuss Bernie Sanders versus Chuck Todd. That was an interesting discussion on Meet the Press. And of course, Joe Biden invades Somalia. So there's a lot of things going on right now. If you've been watching me for a long time, you know I'm anti-war. So obviously I do not approve of this invasion. So I have some things to say about that. And I'm going to start with that story. So here we go. Yes, this is actually happening. We leave one conflict and then we end up in another conflict. Why am I not surprised? Biden approves plan to redeploy several hundred ground forces into Somalia. 1 second, guys. Sorry, I was asking my husband if he could do something for me. Anyway, Biden approves plan to redeploy several hundred ground forces into Somalia. Here we go again. The president also signed off on targeting about a dozen Shabab leaders in the war-torn country, from which Donald Trump largely withdrew in his final weeks of office. So here we have Joe Biden stirring up a conflict that for the most part, the U.S., we were no longer involved in. He's bringing it back to the table. They're all warmongers, you guys. It doesn't matter if they're Republican or Democrat. This is what they do. Let's go back into the article. Here we go. And you can see the picture here. It just looks really sad. Like, look at this picture. Who would want to live through this? So it says a Somali soldier patrolling near the presidential palace after a car bombing in Mogadishu, the capital, in September. Now, that was back in September. The Biden administration's goal in Somalia is to try to reduce the threat from Shabab terrorists. So here we go again, intervening in another country's conflict. President Biden has signed an order authorizing the military to once again deploy hundreds of special operation forces inside Somalia, largely reversing the decision by Donald Trump to withdraw nearly all 700 ground troops who had been stationed there, according to 4 officials familiar with the matter. In addition, Mr. Biden has approved a Pentagon request for standing authority to target about a dozen suspected leaders of al-Shabaab, the Somali terrorist group that is affiliated with al-Qaeda, 3 of the officials have said. Since Mr. Biden took office, airstrikes have largely been limited to those meant to defend partner forces facing an immediate threat. And I'm willing to bet some of those airstrikes also affected civilians that have absolutely nothing to do with this matter. This is the thing about war. Innocent people are killed. This is terrible. This is terrible. And I'm really interested to hear Ilhan Omar's position on this because this is her home country. Now, if you've been with me for a long time, you'll know that last year I started discussing when they first started doing the airstrikes. I was talking about it last year. At that point in time, Ilhan Omar had wrote a letter to Joe Biden asking him to stop this. She wrote a strongly worded letter. Why write a letter when you can have direct access? This is something I feel that Ilhan Omar should be talking about publicly, whether it's on CNN, MSNBC, wherever she needs to go to voice her opinion about this. Not Twitter and not a strongly worded letter. Now, she's not going to do that, though, because she wants to be on his good side. So this whole idea of writing a letter as if it's actually going to do something, they know it's not going to do anything. They're well aware of that. Here we go. Together, the decisions by Mr. Biden described by the officials on the condition of anonymity will revive an open-ended American counterterrorism operation that has amounted to a slow burn war through 3 administrations. The move stands in contrast to his decision last year to pull American forces from Afghanistan, saying that it is time to end the forever war. So, this is another example of him lying to the American people. This does not make any sense. You pulled troops out of Afghanistan only to send more troops abroad for another conflict after they had already pulled troops out of Somalia. This doesn't make any sense, people. And so for the people applauding Joe Biden, saying good job for pulling troops out of Afghanistan, where do those people stand right now that he's sending more troops into another country? Where are they now? There's a video clip. I don't know if I can play it on here, and I don't know if I still have it. But there was a video clip of Julian Assange explaining what these wars are really about. And he says in this clip that the goal is not necessarily to win. The goal is to have a forever war. That's the goal. Keep that in mind. Mr. Biden signed off on the proposal by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin III in early May. In a statement, Adrienne Watson, the National Security Council spokeswoman, acknowledged the move, saying it would enable a more effective fight against al-Shabaab. The decision to reintroduce a persistent presence was made to maximize the safety and effectiveness of our forces and enable them to provide more efficient support for our partners. You got it, Eric? Yeah, I'll pull it up right after this article. Thank you. Eric found that clip. So let's hear this again. The decision to reintroduce a persistent presence. You guys see this? Pay attention to this word, persistent. A persistent presence was made to maximize the safety and effectiveness of our forces and enable them to provide more efficient support for our partners. Ms. Watson did not indicate the number of troops the military would deploy. Of course not. But 2 people familiar with the matter said the figure would be capped at around 450. Let's all remember this. I'm going to follow this conflict closely because I want to see if they're going to stick to that number. That will replace a system in which U.S. troops training and advising Somali and African Union forces have made short stays since Mr. Trump issued what Ms. Watson described as a presumptuous decision to withdraw. The Biden administration strategy in Somalia is to try to reduce the threat from al-Shabaab by suppressing its ability to plot and carry out complicated operations. To that, I say, what complicated operations? What is it? Tell us. I think we have a right to know. A senior administration official has said this. Those include a deadly attack on an American airbase at Manda Bay, Kenya in January 2020. Now, I do remember that happening in January 2020. I think I talked about that story as well. In particular, the official said targeting a small leadership cadre, especially people who are suspected of playing roles in developing plots outside Somalia's borders or having special skills, is aimed at curtailing the threat to a level that is tolerable. Define tolerable. Tolerable for who? Tolerable for the people in Somalia or tolerable for the United States government? Who is it tolerable for? Here we go. Asked to square the return to heavier engagement in Somalia with the American withdrawal from Afghanistan last year, following through on a deal Mr. Trump had made with the Taliban. The senior administration official argued that the two countries presented significantly different complexities. For one, the official said the Taliban have not expressed an intention of attacking the United States. I'm going to say this one more time. The Taliban have not expressed an intention of attacking the United States. And other militant groups in Afghanistan do not control significant enclaves of territory from which to operate and plan. Given that al-Shabaab appears to pose a more significant threat, the administration concluded that more direct engagement in Somalia made sense. Okay. The strategy would focus on disrupting a few Shabaab leaders who are deemed a direct peril to us and our interests and our allies, and maintaining very carefully cabined presence on the ground to be able to work with our partners. Now, I'm not going to read this entire article. You can feel free to read the rest of this yourself, but long story short, here we go again. There always has to be some type of conflict that we are involved in. I'm just getting really sick of it. I'm so sick of it. This means, again, more innocent people will be killed. But again, what is the actual goal? Eric, I'll go ahead and take that video if you have it. I want you to hear what he says.
To completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
You hear that? Endless, not successful. Let's hear that one more time. Here we go.
Because the goal is not to completely subjugate Afghanistan. The goal is to use Afghanistan to wash money out of the tax bases of the United States, out of the tax bases of European countries, through Afghanistan and back into the hands of a transnational security elite. That is the goal, i.e. the goal is to have an endless war, not a successful war.
The goal is to have an endless war, not a successful one. This is why we will stay in countries for years and not really win anything. They're not trying to win. This is another excuse to increase the budget for the military-industrial complex. Another excuse they can point to. Well, we need to have that large budget because we need to help. We need to, intervene in Somalia. You just pulled us out of one disaster. By the way, the war in Afghanistan was a complete failure. You pour us out of one just to put us into another one. I'm going to go to some of the comments, and there's something else I want to show you about Somalia. Aunt Perry, hey, Sabby, I caught you on the Jimmy Dore show, loved your views, and followed you right after. Love the show. Oh, thank you so much, and welcome. Tim says, hi, Sabby, I saw you on Jimmy Dore. Hi, Tim, welcome. Saul says Trump removes 750 troops and Biden adds 500. Good work. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Much respect to Bernie, but his timing to fight hard is nearly always too late to amount to anything. Yeah, I'm going to get into that clip in just a second. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Companies will toss your resume if it's not in their preferred format, even if you meet all the requirements. Biden won't read a letter. It's true. Thank you for the super chat, Meteor Dreams. Jordan Charlatan. I think it's Sheraton. Jordan, whatever. Jordan smeared Jimmy today on his stream. He accused him and other channels of sheep herding people to the right. He also went after Glenn. I haven't seen that, but that's interesting. I don't know what that's about. Like, I do know there was scuffle on Twitter today, but honestly, guys, like a lot of times on Twitter, I just post, skim, and hop off. I'm not kidding. I don't read half the stuff. I don't read half my mentions. I usually just post and pop off. All right. Now, I do want to tell you something else about Somalia that I think is important. Now, every time I talk about these conflicts, I do want you to know that usually there are resources that are involved. They don't always tell us that. Especially mainstream media. They don't always mention to us, oh, by the way, there was opium in Afghanistan. You know, they don't want to talk about that. They want you to believe the narrative that we are there to protect the women and the children. That's a big one, by the way. And to that, I say, if we're protecting the women and the children, then why are you killing innocent women and children? Let me show you something about Somalia. Let's look at their resources. I think this is interesting. What are the major natural resources of Somalia? You know, a lot of times people like to call these countries third world countries. A lot of these countries are rich in resources. So here we go. Somalia is a country in the Horn of Africa that borders Djibouti. I hope I said that correctly. Ethiopia, Indian Ocean, the Gardafu Channel, and the Gulf of Eden. It has a total area approximately 256,201 square miles, making it the 42nd largest country in the world. Somalia has the longest coastland on Africa's mainland. The country is divided into 18 regions, which are further subdivided into several districts. The population of Somalia is approximately 14 million people. Somalia, one of the least developed countries in the world. Now, see, here we go with this term again, least developed countries. But I'm about to show you the resources that this country has. Here we go. Somalia is reported to hold large untapped reserves of numerous natural resources such as iron ore, uranium, copper, tin, bauxite, gypsum, salt, and natural gas. Its proximity to countries such as Yemen and Saudi Arabia makes it a potential reserve of oil. What do you know? Who would have thought? Not oil, you say? Yes, oil. Let's go back in. There's more. These resources remain largely untapped and unexploited because of the poor infrastructure and the decades of civil war. For a long time, the country did not have a substantial government in place. However, following the end of the Civil War, the country is slowly rebuilding, with several foreign companies already showing interest in investing in its mining industry. Well, would you look at that? What do you know? Here are some of the major resources of Somalia. Let's look at oil. Somalia's proximity to the Gulf of Arab states such as Yemen and Saudi Arabia makes it a huge potential for oil reserve. However, oil has not been exploited in the country, though certain foreign companies, such as Chinese Oil Company, have been granted a license to find minerals, including oil. The government of Somalia has also created the Somalia Petroleum Company to supervise and control petroleum exploration in the country. Range Resource, an oil group based in Sydney, estimates that the Puntland province in the north of Somalia has the potential to produce 5 to 10 million barrels of oil. Oil exploration in the region began in the 2000s with a series of negotiations between the government and foreign companies. In 2012, the government okayed the first official oil exploration in Puntland. Now, again, that's 2012. The exploration was led by Africa Oil, a Canadian oil company, and Range Resources. The Shebel 1 well became the first to yield oil. And then it goes on to mention all of the other resources as well. But the one I want you to focus on is oil, because that is a resource that the United States government cares very much so about. Look at a lot of our conflicts. I can tell you, when my dad was sent to Kuwait, this was during the Gulf War operation. They didn't really call it a war, but it was the Gulf War operation. When my dad was sent there, what was that about? Oil. This is another reason why I really want us to get off of some of these resources. Oil is one of them. That's what people want, more oil, especially the United States government. So I wanted to mention that to you because, again, I think when we talk about these conflicts in other countries, I think it's important to explain to people what resources are there. I don't want people to think that we're just going there to be the good guys and protect the women and the children. There's usually something in it for us, and they don't always tell us that part. Lawrence said another nation put their country on top of our resources. Thank you for the super chat, Carl. We are in Orwell's 1984, where the endless wars keep the ruling class in power while the lower classes remain powerless. Plus, we need to use our bombs. I hear you, Carl. I hear you. It's crazy, right? I'll take the comment on Rockfin. Thank you for the tip, Roger. First, RIP Mr. Perfect Kurt Hennig. 2, Mr. Perfect died? Oh man, I'm really behind on like the wrestling stories. I didn't realize that. Jeez. 2, other countries' resources, mostly oil, but soon metals like lithium and the weapons manufacturing industry are the main reason we go to war. Thank you so much for saying that, Roger. 3, AUMF never gets repealed because Congress doesn't want to bear the brunt of bad decisions, so it's more convenient to push it onto the executive branch and say, not me, him, 100%. Gotta pass the buck somewhere. 4, we must repeal AUMF and nationalize weapons manufacturing. Thank you so much for that, Roger. So that's that, ladies and gentlemen. I will be keeping an eye on this story and give you updates because, like I said, here we go again. Here we go again. I'm going to go into my second story. And this one is about Joe Rogan. Now, before I get going with this, I do want you guys to know that I do read your emails. I don't always have time to respond. I do read as many DMs as I can. My DM folder is a mess. I'm just being honest. And I hear you guys. Some of you have reached out and said, you know, you think that some of us should start to give credit where credit's due. So, for example, not just talking about stories that a podcaster may have mentioned when they're doing the wrong thing, but also highlight when they do something right. So I want you to know that I've heard you. I can do a better job of that. And I'm going to do that right now. So someone sent me this clip. Now, this is from Rational National. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen that show in a long time, but someone sent me this clip, and I do want to give credit where credit's due here. David Dole, he really did nail down something here about Joe Rogan, and I've told you guys before, I'm not a fan of Joe Rogan. I don't dislike Joe Rogan, but I'm not a Joe Rogan stan like some people. I've only seen like 4 episodes of his show. I haven't made it through the full episodes because they're like 3 hours long. And anyway, that's a me thing. But Joe Rogan's not having a good week. I'm just going to be clear. You know, it was a couple days ago, people were coming after him for some comments that he made about the whole groomer reference. And now it appears that Joe Rogan's own audience is not happy with him. And that's never good, right? So even they're starting to call out some of his takes. And thank you for the person who sent this to me. I forget, but I get a lot of messages. Thank you for the one who sent this to me. Sorry, I'm looking at something else at the same time. I really appreciate that because I do want to give credit where credit's due. Some of the things said here, I cringe. I do feel like Joe Rogan's takes have changed over the past couple years. I don't know what's happening with Joe Rogan, but I will also say, I don't think that's someone that, well, I could be wrong. I mean, I personally don't go to Joe Rogan for political information. I think if you want to go watch that show for entertainment, have at it. But Joe Rogan has said so himself, not to watch his show for political advice. He said he's just a guy sitting there talking. So let's get into this because, again, this is a Rational National. I really do think he had good takes here, so I do want to give credit to that. But something is happening with Joe Rogan, and it is not looking good. So all I'm going to say is brace yourself for this one. This one was difficult to watch. Here we go.
You know, it's this Roe versus Wade thing. I saw it in the news and I need a mental health day. Right. Fuck you. Show up at work. European countries have a point in this more relaxed approach to like the future and your life.
Yeah. Joe Rogan's own subreddit is turning on him over some recent elitist comments. Now, I will show you various examples of that in a minute here. I'm going to show you this clip. It is just another example in a pattern that's been going on for years now. So
what you just saw there at the beginning was a recent clip of him saying, talking about a mental health day. They'll get into that in this video in just a second. And then an older clip. And I think that other clip was from 2017 where he had a different take on that. So his opinions have changed. I don't know what's going on with Joe Rogan. People change. It does happen, but this is not a good look. This is not a good look. So here we go.
As a former avid viewer of the Joe Rogan podcast, I'm well aware of his shift towards a more conservative, leaning show. That is very obvious. Yes, he still has people on that aren't just conservative, but come on. If you look at the list, it's striking how many more conservatives he has on compared to people who are pushing, progressive values. So I'm going to play that for you. I'm also going to play a clip from 4 years ago showing how different he was on this very topic. So first, here are his comments that he made recently on a podcast with Gad Saad about getting time off for a mental health day.
So I do want to say really quick, shout out to David Dole, because I think he just said this. Let me make sure he said this already. Hold on.
People on that aren't just conservative, but come on. If you look at the list, it's striking how many more conservatives he has on compared to people who are pushing, progressive values. So I'm going to play that for you. I'm also going to play a clip from 4 years ago showing how different he was on this very topic. So first, here are his comments.
Okay, he hasn't said it yet. I'll tell you in a second.
That he made recently on a podcast with Gad Saad about getting time off for a mental health day.
I lean far more left than I do right because I grew up on welfare. I grew up in poverty. We had food stamps when I was a kid. I remember those times. I remember being poor. And I will never say that I don't believe in social services or a social safety net. I think that's crazy. That saved my family. It saved me. And my parents worked their way out of it. My mom and my stepdad worked their way out of that and eventually got off of it and eventually did well. Like a friend of mine who's an employer, she employs people, and she was saying that like some of her employees are saying, I need a mental health day today. She's like, you're not sick. Get the fuck to work.
Right.
What are you talking? You want to get paid for this mental health day? Show the fuck up.
Right.
We're not talking about your parents just died in a car accident. No, you have a high level of anxiety today. It's this Roe versus Wade thing. I saw it in the news and I need a mental health day. Right. Fuck you. Show up at work. Show up at work and work harder. Get the fuck out of here.
You need to be a bit
this.
more animated, Joe.
I get so crazy about it because I know what it is. All right.
Okay, let's revisit this. There's more, but let's hear this again. Two different things are said here. One, his experience, his personal experience, and other people's experiences. Listen to this.
For a mental health day.
I lean far more left than I do right because I grew up on welfare. I grew up in poverty. We had food stamps when I was a kid. I remember those times. I remember being poor. And I will never say that I don't believe in social services or a social safety net. I think that's crazy. That saved my family. It saved me. And my parents worked their way out of it. My mom and my stepdad worked their way out of that and eventually got off of it and eventually did well.
Two things. Joe Rogan, he's doing something that I've seen other celebrities do here. I'm talking about celebrities that grew up in poverty and got out of it, right? I think it's great that his parents were able to get out of that. But here's the kicker. The majority of people who grow up in poverty don't get out of poverty. People like Joe Rogan, they're outliers. Most people who grow up poor do not get out. They have children, their children grow up in poverty, and their children's children grow up in poverty. It's a cycle. Now, I know about this, not just from research, but from personal experience. My parents grew up poor, very poor, in Baltimore, Maryland. And my dad will tell you today, had it not been for him joining the military, he believes that he would still be in poverty. That was his ticket out. My dad didn't join the military because he cared so much about his country. He joined to get out of poverty. That goes into another issue about how the military industrial complex targets people in low-income neighborhoods. That is a fact. But just because it happened for Joe Rogan doesn't mean that everybody else can do it. That's the problem here. So this mentality that some people have, well, I grew up poor and I got out of poverty. Congratulations. Kudos for you. The other thing I want to mention is that you have to think about the economy, the economic situation back then compared to how things are now. We're going back to a time where you're talking about like our parents, if they wanted to go to college, they weren't paying what we have to pay to go to college now. My dad took classes at community college. My dad paid $50 for one semester. You can't even pay that at community college now. You can't. So we're looking at two different times. So for me, I felt like that was pretty cringe. I'm sorry. But this part right here.
A friend of mine who's an employer, she employs people, and she was saying that like some of her employees are saying, I need a mental health day today. She's like, You're not sick. Get the fuck to work.
Right.
What are you talking? You want to get paid for this mental health day? Show the fuck up.
Right.
We're not talking about your parents just died in a car accident. No, you have a high level of anxiety today. It's this Roe versus Wade thing. I saw it in the news and I need a mental health day. Right. Fuck you. Show up at work. Show up.
So this is another example of people not taking mental health seriously. First of all, define sick. So you can only take a sick day if you're physically sick. What about your mental health? This is also why, and I was talking to my husband about this earlier. This is also why I don't like the fact that some people have these supervisors that if you just want to take a personal day, you have to tell them why you're taking that day off. Why do I have to tell you? If I say I'm taking a personal day, I'm taking a personal day. Now, here you have an employee that felt like, for whatever reason, she can confide in her supervisor and tell her, listen, I need a mental health day. That's not easy for people to do. A lot of people that have mental health issues, they don't talk about this with their coworkers. Damn, the supervisor. A lot of them don't want people to know about it because they don't want to be ridiculed, or they don't want people to say something that Joe Rogan just said right here. So the fact that she even had the guts to say that to her supervisor, hey, I need to take a mental health day, that says a lot. And I've said this before on the show, and I'll say it again. You have to take care of yourself first. If your physical health is not good, if your mental health is not good, are you going to be able to be 100% at work? You got to take care of yourself first. So, again, I don't know where Joe Rogan was going with this, but I feel like if this was 4 years ago, I feel like he wouldn't have made this comment. He would have said it in a different way. I don't feel like he would have been insensitive to this issue. So I do feel like he is changing. It is what it is. Just admit that. But this is not good. And his own viewers are calling him out on it. His own audience. Go look at Reddit. Let's go back in.
But work harder. Get the fuck out of
You
here.
need to be a
with
bit
this.
more animated, Joe.
I get so crazy about it because I know what it is.
All right. So before I even comment on this and show you some reactions, many of the reactions online from viewers and former viewers, and also a clip from 4 years ago showing a very different Rogan, I have to say, I looked for the context for this clip because the one that was shared on Reddit was only like 15 seconds. It was just the, get back to work portion.
That's the part I wanted you guys to hear. Let me comment about that for a second. So I am going to give David kudos for that, because I have noticed, and this tends to happen more so on Twitter, people will take a clip from Twitter and they'll just go do a show about that clip. They don't provide any context. They don't do any research to see what was said before and what was said after that clip. They don't see the full dialogue. This is actually happening on Twitter right now as we speak. So when I see these clips on Twitter of people with videos, I always go back and find the original video so I can see the context. People take clips and they edit them and put things in, mix things around to make it seem like someone's saying something that they're not really saying. And I've seen journalists and commentators just take those clips off Twitter, don't do any research, don't look into the context, and then report about it on their show. We have to do better. So I'm glad that he did dig a little bit deeper to see what was the full message and not just go off of the clip that was on Twitter there.
I now need a mental health day because I had to watch 3 hours of this podcast only to find that this was at the very end of the episode. Now, it was on 2x speed, so I got to save a little time there, but my God, the amount of garbage that was thrown, there could be like 6 or 7 stories on the amount of shit he talked about during this insane episode with Gadsad, but let's put that aside because I want to get to these reactions online. So first, credit here to Humanist Report for sharing this out. He's a great YouTube show. I'll link to it below the video. Check out the Humanist Report. Now, before I show you the comments online, the clip they shared on Reddit did not show you the part where he's talking about his upbringing and, his family working hard to get out of poverty and supporting a safety net and being progressive.
See what I was saying about those clips that people share?
Good. How do you not, from that experience, understand how lucky you were?
I'll tell you why, David. And this is something we've talked about on RBN a couple of times. Because some of these celebrities that grew up poor, they become celebrities, they're rich, all of a sudden, they tend to have this mindset that anyone else can do it. And that's not true. And I'm talking about people like Morgan Freeman, Oprah Winfrey, Tyler Perry. They're notorious for, I grew up in poverty. I grew up poor, and if I did it, anyone can do it. No, if anyone can do it, then more people would be out of poverty. Oh my God. No. So you have some of these celebrities, they grew up poor, they become celebrities, and all of a sudden, all class consciousness just goes out the window. They start talking down on their own class. The working class. People who are poor, they start talking down on those people. You guys need to work hard. You need to work harder. Pull yourself up by the bootstraps. It happens. Something I talk about often. That's why I said a lot of these celebrities, especially some of the black celebrities, a lot of them are class loyal first. They pretend to be about an issue and for the cause. And the moment their agent says you need to pull back, they pull back. That happened with Mark Ruffalo. That's happened with Will Smith. That's happened with Morgan Freeman. It also happened with Susan Sarandon. And I don't think Susan Sarandon should have removed the tweet that she had about the NYPD. She was spot on. She removed it and came back and apologized. Let's go back in.
That your parents lived in a time where hard work did sometimes pay off, could pay off. Let me show you. I mean, and Rogan knows this as well because of previous commentary he's done, but it's like he separates parts of his mind depending on who's in the podcast in front of him. Because this from the Economic Policy Institute, the gap between productivity and a typical worker's compensation has increased dramatically since 1979. So, back in the 70s, maybe early 80s, when Rogan was younger and his parents were working hard to get out of poverty and had a more of a safety net, they actually got rewarded. Or I shouldn't say rewarded, but they actually earned, they worked and they earned what they worked for. Yet since then, productivity continues increasing, yet compensation barely does. So you see this clear separation here between hard work and the money you make from that hard work.
Right. This is the difference. And this is what I was telling people. This is the difference. We're working just as hard. Some people working twice as hard. But when it comes to income, when it comes to our salary, it doesn't show. Hell, the minimum wage is still $7 and 25 cents an hour?
Rogan, his complaint are that people aren't working hard enough, even though all data shows that they are. You would think someone who grew up in poverty understands this would have a little more empathy, a little more understanding for people who are in a situation where they are working insane hours and not getting paid enough. That
they're rich now, Dave. He's rich now. You'd think they would.
Maybe taking a day off, mental health day, sick day, whatever it is, taking a day off is a very one of their only outlets for a break to actually live a proper life separate from the work they have to do to just stay above water. I mean, for him to, this shows you how elitist he has become. And this is why people have stopped listening, and why you're going to see a lot of these reactions online are people that just, they can't relate to him anymore. So he was once a person who understood, the plight of the worker and a lot of his commentary now, not all of it, but a lot of it now, is just this. Now, I will say before I go further, I'm not going to comment on, the abortion rights aspect of this. He has come out to support abortion rights.
I want to answer this really quick. Baba says, Logan wasn't talking about people having work hard. He's talking about people using an excuse like Roe Wade to take off work. That's what I'm getting. I don't know, Baba. Like even last year, I did a show where Joe Rogan was talking about paid parental leave. He changed his position on that too, that he doesn't think that people should get paid parental leave. So, and a couple years ago, did he say that? No, he said the exact opposite. So when it comes to the work, I don't know. Like I said, his positions and his views have changed.
He's against the overturning of Roe v. Wade. So again, Rogan has, still good positions that exist. But this mentality in terms of the pressure on the worker and him not being aware of that or not wanting to acknowledge that or the importance of that is just, it's glaring, and it's been going on for years now. So some reactions, I just want to share this as well. This is another example of this recently, this mindset. Rogan doesn't get why men take paternity leave. So that also made the news. Though I think after the reaction, he came out to change his mind, or at least, alter his perspective a little bit after there was some good perspectives or opinions that were taking him down. But all right, let's get to some reactions now to this before I get to the clip from 4 years ago. So this one here, Joe Rogan during COVID, quote, mental health is extremely important. We need everybody or everything open, and the government telling you what to do with your body by forcing vaccines is authoritarian. Joe during Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. LOL, F you and your mental health. Just work, you stupid cog. And the government telling you what to do with your body is no big deal, you pussies. Yeah.
Yeah, that's coming from his own audience, you guys. That's coming from Joe Rogan's own audience. Reggie said Rogan is a Texan now. He used to be a Californian. Oh, Reggie. Yeah. I don't know. I have noticed that his framing has changed. Bill Bradley, Rogan might reach bad conclusions, but anyone whose mind can change is a person whose mind is open. Far better than a person with a closed mind whose positions never move. That's a good point as well. Good point, Bill.
It's definitely the disconnect there is clear. This comment, imagine being so mentally weak that you take a day off for being sad while Joe is preparing his new lethal comedy techniques in his mansion, all while conquering his inner bitch in the sauna. This just made me laugh. The poor stool won't know what hit it. Joe knows that life's real struggles take place in 20-minute increments in the sauna. Again, going to Joe's very disconnected, very privileged life now that he is incredibly wealthy from doing a podcast where he just sits down and talks to people. I mean, Rogan knows, and I think he's acknowledged this, that this isn't work for him. This is, him having fun. People doing actual work, as I'll get to, example in a second here. This person who was an essential worker during the pandemic. These are the actual workers, the people that hold society up. That, let them have a mental health day every now and then. Like who, for that to bother you, what should bother you is they aren't getting enough time off, and that's what used to bother him, as I will show you shortly. But this comment here. Before COVID, I also subscribed to the just work hard pussy. Then COVID hit, and as an essential worker, I continued working hard while everybody chilled at home. So 5 days a week, working 8 to 10 hour shifts, keeping society from collapsing, only to come home to my 300 square foot apartment and do nothing. That is hard work. That is hard life. And did we get any reward for it? Nothing.
Yeah, that's a good example. That's a really good example. The people who were essential workers. A lot of people don't know. There's more here as well, but I want to get to the part where he shows you the difference. Okay, here we go.
On this topic.
European countries have a point in this more relaxed approach to the future and your life.
Yeah.
They really do. This conqueror's mentality. I wonder how many heart attacks we have in comparison to European people.
I don't know.
You know what's fucked up?
What?
Sick time. I ran out of sick days.
Yeah, exactly.
What? What do you mean?
You're sick.
You're sick.
Yeah.
Can you imagine telling somebody, buddy, you're out of sick days. I'm gonna have to dock your pay. And you're dying. What? I can't breathe. They got you on IVs and shit. I don't care. You're out of sick days. In order to keep revenue flowing, we must keep you in the process.
Yeah.
What? You have a certain amount of days you're allowed to be sick.
They get it better in other places.
They absolutely should.
There's
First
an
of all,
expectation that you go fucking see the world and go do stuff.
40-hour work week is bullshit.
Bullshit.
It's
You're not
bullshit.
productive that level.
Nobody
So you guys hear the difference? Now, obviously, like this is from the past.
should do it.
Look at how different that Joe Rogan was. Standing up for the working class, calling bullshit on the 40-hour work week, and talking about, the importance of sick days, yet modern Joe Rogan yelling at people for taking one day off of work because they're stressed or it's Roe v. Wade or whatever the hell the reason is. Who cares what the reason is? Getting angry because they want to take a day off of work. Yeah, a very different Rogan. And quickly here are, this is some recent data from the demographics of what Rogan's audience is. So this shared by Morning Consult a few months ago. Looking at views in terms of Democratic, Independent, Republicans. So you see here a plurality of his avid fans are Republican at 40.
So this part here, I don't think is as important. And the reason why I say that, I don't care if Joe Rogan's audience, if it's more conservatives than Democrats, independent. I don't really care because, again, Joe Rogan has said so himself that he does not have a political show. Yes, he's had some candidates come on there. I think Bernie was on there one time. Yeah, Bernie was on Joe Rogan's show. He's had a couple of candidates come on, but he said multiple times it's not a political show. There have been celebrities that come on there. All different types of people go on to Joe Rogan's show. So this is the part where I don't think this works well with his show in particular. If it was a political show and he was showing their audience base, then I would understand this. But again, it's not a political show. So again, I don't care. I don't care that Joe Rogan's audience is majority conservative. So what? I'm just like, I don't know. No. But yeah, he's showing the difference here. So you can see that. I'll pull this back up. So you can see that. And the ideology, the party is up here. The ideology is down here below. Avid fans, non-fans. I mean, this doesn't show me anything that I was surprised by, but again, it's not a political show. So Greg says, I feel like he used to look at things from an apolitical lens, not anymore though. Yeah, I guess I can see that too. I mean, it just is what it is. I think the reason some people are freaking out is because remember Joe Rogan did endorse Bernie Sanders and that was like a big deal. He got heat for doing that. And then Bernie Sanders also got heat because he got an endorsement from Joe Rogan. So I think that's why some people are freaking out. It's like, how did you go from endorsing Bernie Sanders to the things that you're saying today? So again, like I said, people do change, but yeah, I guess his audience has not really been feeling it. But that's pretty much it for this video here. I do want to address something that came up in the chat. Yuri Nation said sick is not mental health. Let's look up the definition of sick. Because I think this is a common belief that people have. So here's the definition of sick. Sick, affected by physical or mental illness. Sick, affected by physical or mental illness. So that's that. Go to some of the comments in the chat. Shout out to JB Font, comrade from RBN. Then they wonder why their employees aren't as productive. They aren't flippant about mental health and discredit the needs of their employees. It's true, man. It's true. Joy, Yes, Oprah Winfrey is an outlier, especially anyone that rich. Sure, she worked hard and is super smart, but I bet there is a lot of luck in being in the right place at the right time. And also, in her particular case, also screwing over a lot of people. Roman Smith, 400 million weighs heavy on one's empathy. Oh, good point, Roman. Oz, Dole is using this for clicks and subs. Dole is not your friend. Dole is the epitome of a grifter. Yeah, I'm not saying Dole is a friend. I don't know David Dole, never met him. Don't watch the show anymore. Like I told you, I haven't watched it in years, but I did think that this was interesting. Like I said, someone sent this to me, and I do want to do a better job of giving credit where credit is due, whether I follow that person or not. Thank you for this super chat, Andrew. I don't hate Rogan, but he's wrong for this. I've had panic attacks while tutoring my students. Yeah, man. Especially during like the pandemic, mental health has been, whew. Thank you for this super chat as well, Andrew. Don't get it twisted. The likes of David Dole, the Humanist Report, and TYT don't care about workers either. They're using this to pretend they do. That's a good point, Andrew. Christopher, hey, Sabby, if program takes off and you have employees, would you be cool with one of them needing paid time off because someone on the net or TV said something they didn't like? So when I say that I think that people should have paid time off, that includes all workers, regardless of your job, regardless if you're part-time or full-time. I think everyone should have that. Okie doke. Let's bring up, I think I have a Rockfin comment from Roger. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin. Sab, Mr. Perfect, Kurt Hennig died in 2003. Don't forget Whoopi Goldberg and Denzel Washington vocally opposed defund the police mantra, went into personal experience of riding in the back of a police car and watching how they treat a black man humanely who was on something. Excuse me, Denzel, you think that would have been the outcome if you weren't in the back of the car? The last thing they want is terrible PR. Yeah, I remember that. Good point, Roger. That is a good point. Oh my God. Yes. Oh, did I forget to show that? Crap, I did. Sorry, guys. I forgot to show this with my Biden story, but give a big shout out for Black in the Empire on Twitter. This was in reference to Somalia. He said, hey, America, Biden is bombing black people again. Gotta love Black in the Empire. He's awesome. Awesome. Go ahead and remove that. Thank you so much for the super chat, Terry Hinton. Thank you, Sabby. I like your lives. Thank you so much. And welcome. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Rogan can say whatever he wants, but he should talk more about his lefty views. Imagine how great it would be if he talked more about single payer. He changed his position on Medicare for all. He changed his position on Medicare for all last year. So that was one of the episodes that I saw, like part of it, where he said that after talking to doctors, he doesn't think Medicare for all would work. Maybe he's changed it again, but I don't know. That was last year. Yeah, Miguel, Black in the Empire always makes great points. He does. Larry, hey, Sabby, I need to take a day off because my shirt was shrunk in the dryer. I don't care why you take your day off. I really don't care. I don't know. I would be a different kind of boss. Like, I'm like, look, I don't need to know why you're taking the day off. If you want to take a personal day, just say, hey, I'm taking a personal day. I don't care about you don't need to tell me the reason. Obviously, if it's an emergency and you're in some kind of like danger or whatever, I'd want you to get some help. But I think that some supervisors have taken advantage of that. I know for me, like for one, I don't like telling people like my personal business at work, like if it was something personal. And I've had some supervisors where they're like, they need to know exactly what's going on. I'm like, why? So you guys can gossip with other employees about it? Gotta be careful what you tell people. Gotta be careful. All right, I'm going into the final story. Now, I want to give a shout out to Case Study QB, always doing phenomenal work. So, Case Study posted this clip. Now, this is Bernie Sanders was on Meet the Press having an interesting discussion with Chuck Schumer. So, Case Study says here, Bernie Sanders Meet the Press full interview calling out Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema for sabotaging Biden and calling out too many Democrats supporting Henry Cuellar. I hope I say his last name correctly, over Jessica Cisneros. So let's listen to this, you guys, because this was a pretty interesting discussion. Here we go.
Start with what you know probably instinctively these days, but our polling has found 75% of the country thinks we're headed in the wrong direction. In fact, just 28% of Democrats right now think the country is headed in the right direction. Where do you stand? Do you think we're headed in the wrong direction?
I sure do. Look, what we're looking at is a nation today where the billionaire class, the people on top, are doing phenomenally well, Chuck. The middle class continues to decline. We're seeing increased concentration of ownership in America, which has huge impacts.
I want to look at that poll one more time. Did he actually show it? Let him read these numbers again.
Start with what you know probably instinctively these days, but our polling has found 75% of the country thinks we're headed in the wrong direction.
75% of the country says we are heading in the wrong direction. Not even 50, 75%. All right, let's get back to Bernie's little speech here.
Wall Street firms, Vanguard, BlackRock, and State Street, that have assets of over $20 trillion, controlling hundreds of corporations.
Now, I've talked about those three on this show multiple times. You need to pay close attention to those companies, BlackRock, Vanguard, and State Street. They are shareholders in multiple companies.
You're seeing millions of people unable to afford the cost of prescription drugs, unable to afford healthcare, unable to put gas in the tank. So how can anyone think that what's going on right now is good? And obviously, what I and other progressives are trying to do is put together a movement which tells the billionaire class in this country, whose profits are soaring, who are getting richer and richer, you know what, you can't have it all. We need an.
So Bernie Sanders is saying him and other progressives are trying to put together a movement. But Bernie had a movement. No, Bernie had a movement for years. The first time when he ran in 2016, going all the way through 2020, Bernie had a movement. He wouldn't have to try to put together one if he didn't leave the movement that he had. I'm sorry, but that's just a reality.
Economy that works for the middle class, the working class, the elderly, the children, not just the few on top.
You know, it's interesting when you talk about the movement, because there's definitely, we see it in our own polling, there are more people that agree with sort of your mindset, that you're framing. We need big structural change. But what do we do now before the elections? What, you know, at the end of the day, you have the Senate that you have, not the one that you want. What can get done now that could actually mitigate what looks like it's going to be a tough year?
I want to interrupt Chuck Todd here for just a second, because he said you have the Senate that you have, not the Senate that you want. No, they do have the people in there that they want. Let's remember. Let's remember all this stuff that happened with Nina Turner and her election, and how the Progressive Caucus and the Congressional Black Caucus did not want to go with her. Like I said, the party decides who they want. So the people that you see sitting up there in the Senate, that's who the party wanted. And 9 times out of 10, the candidate that has the most money is the one that wins. So Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin are there because that's what the Democratic Party wanted. The Democratic Party did not want Paula Jean Swearengin, who was obviously the better option. That's not who they wanted. The people sitting there are the people that the party wants. And Bernie Sanders knows that.
for Democrats?
Look, we passed early on in the Biden administration one of the most significant pieces of legislation in the modern history of this country. That was the American Rescue Plan, which, Chuck, in my view, did a whole lot to help people deal with the economic turmoil that we saw as a result of COVID and massive unemployment. What we have got to do right now, it's not hard. You know what you do? You listen to the American people and not wealthy campaign contributors. What does that mean? It means that right now you lower the outrageous cost of prescription drugs in this country. You have the guts to take on the pharmaceutical industry that right now has 1,500 paid lobbyists in Washington, D.C. You expand Medicare. I happen to believe, as candidates that I support believe, that health care is a human right, not a function of making huge profits for the insurance companies and the people who own them. You got to move toward expanding health care. You got to raise the minimum wage to a living wage. You got to create millions of jobs by dealing with the existential threat of climate. And by the way, you got to do what the American people want and understand that it is women who have the right to control their own bodies, not the government.
Okay, everything you said there was being addressed in Build Back Better. Okay, wasn't as big as you wanted it. It was too big for some. But why do we have nothing? Right, that is the head scratcher here. Understand you don't have it all. Why is it zero? Why is there nothing?
It's
Okay, I'm going to get to this part in just a second, but I do want to say something about the American Rescue Act. I don't know about you guys, but I didn't get anything from the American Rescue Act. I don't have kids, so that child tax credit obviously didn't go towards me, but they cut that short anyway. So there's that. But the American Rescue Act didn't rescue people. Rescuing the American people would be giving everybody a living wage. Couldn't do that. You had 8 Democrats vote against a $15 minimum wage. It's not just Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin. But I noticed those other Democrats were not getting as much pressure as Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema were. Call the rest of them out too. But that American Rescue Act did not rescue Americans. People are still in poverty. What did it help? What did it help? JB says Chuck Todd knows why we have nothing. He just needs to ask his boss. Ouch.
Well, it should not be a head scratcher. You got 2 members of the Senate, Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema, who have sabotaged what the president has been fighting.
That's a strong word.
Sabotage.
Sabotaged. You know, Kyrsten Sinema, she was an interesting one because she used to be Green Party. I don't know if everyone knows that. She agreed with $15 minimum wage. And she voted against it. And this is why I tell people it's not enough for politicians to say, yes, I support an issue. I support Medicare for all. I support $15 minimum wage. The question is, are you actually going to fight for it? Because Kyrsten Sinema, like I said, she supported $15 minimum wage, and then she got elected and she voted down on it. So again, you know, Bernie is buying into the Democratic Party talking points here of we got to blame Manchin and Sinema. They're the rotating villains. The Democratic Party knew exactly who Joe Manchin was when they told people to vote for him over Paula Jean Swearengin. They knew that he was not progressive. They knew he was against Medicare for all. That is not something that he kept secret. He's been vocal about it. They knew what they were getting. So how are you sabotaged if you already knew what they were? Question for the audience.
Well, you helped me out with a better word here. You got 48 members of the Senate who wanted to go forward with an agenda that helped working families, that was prepared to take on the wealthy and the powerful. You got a president who wanted to do that. You had 2 people who prevented us from doing that. You have a better word than sabotage? That's fine, but I think that is the right word. And I think pressure has got to be put on the part of people in West Virginia, in Arizona, to say, you know what, why don't you stand up for ordinary Americans, not just your wealthy campaign contributors? Why don't you have the guts to take on the drug companies and the insurance companies and the...
Why are they still asking them questions. Has Joe Manchin been removed from any of his committee assignments? Has the Democratic Party threatened Joe Manchin the same way they threatened members of the squad? No. Joe Biden's response was, I'll work with Manchin. He'll come around. They can work with him, but they're not going to work with the progressive candidates that are in the House. It's all a show.
Fossil fuel industry.
So let me ask you, though. I've talked to Pennsylvania Democrats, and they also blame Senators Manchin and Sinema. They don't blame the Republicans. Is that healthy for the party?
Of course they do, because those are the talking points that are coming from mainstream media, and they watch people like you, Chuck Todd. So, of course, they're going to repeat the same talking points that you have.
That all of this concentration, and should you have found something to do that isolates the Republicans rather than you guys ended up dividing the party against itself?
No, I don't see it that way, Chuck.
Now, I don't know if Bernie caught this, but I caught it. Listen to what Chuck Todd says right here, really quick, right about here.
And Sinema. They don't blame the Republicans. Is that healthy for the party that all of this concentration, and should you have found something to do that isolates the Republicans rather than you guys ended up dividing the party against itself?
You guys ended up dividing the party. Pay attention to that.
No, I don't see it that way, Chuck. I think on all of these issues, we had zero Republican support for the proposals in Medicare, in Build Back Better, that were enormously popular. So it's certainly not just.
But you already knew that you were not going to get the Republican support. This is not like this was a surprise to Bernie Sanders or to any of the politicians sitting there. They already knew the Republicans opposed it.
Manchin and Sinema. They are 2 out of the 50 Democrats who went in the wrong direction, but every Republican did. So if your point is it's not just Manchin and Sinema, you're right. It is every Republican. Now, the problem, I think, is we have not done a good job in making that clear to the American people.
Let me ask.
Yes, you have. Hold up, Bernie. Wait a minute. I know you did not try to snowball me.
Certainly not just Manchin and Sinema. They are 2 out of the 50 Democrats who went in the wrong direction, but every Republican did. So if your point is it's not just Manchin and Sinema, you're right. It is every Republican. Now, the problem, I think, is we have not done a good job in making that clear to the American people.
Let me ask you.
Yes, you have. CNN, MSNBC, the number of times they have reported that Kyrsten Sinema and Joe Manchin were blocking bills, were blocking legislation. Guys, I covered it multiple times on this show. The American people know that they're not approving these bills. The American people know that. Was it not CNN and MSNBC who said something about Kyrsten Sinema giving the thumbs down little curtsy for the $15 minimum wage? I can't believe he's even doing these talking points. This is the same thing that Obama and Hillary Clinton and Ro Khanna are saying, that we need to tell the story better. Now Bernie Sanders going along saying the same damn thing. People know. We haven't done a good job of letting the people know. Yes, you have. Yes, you have. Multiple times, actually.
About the vote to codify Roe this week. This is one of those votes that had 49 Democrats, not 50. Should it have been should the leadership have put a bill on the floor that could have gotten 52 votes, including Collins and Murkowski, to isolate the 48 Republican noes?
No, I think we'll see what happens. But to answer your question, I think nobody should think that this process is dead. We should bring those bills up again and again and again. I was just at a rally earlier, on Saturday in Montpelier, Vermont, my state capital. People cannot believe that you have a Supreme Court and Republicans who are prepared to overturn 50 years of precedent. So I think what we should do is on this bill end the filibuster, do everything that we can to get 50 votes on the strongest possible bill to protect the woman's right to control her own body.
But you're not going to be able to end the filibuster because Kyrsten Sinema already said she won't approve it.
Or we had this leak opinion about Roe being overturned. You didn't use the abortion issue as a reason not to support people. You've supported pro-life progressives if they were progressive on economic issues.
Well,
I recall a mayor of Omaha. I recall a race like that. Has your mind changed?
There you go, a mayor of Omaha.
No, I understand that. But is your philosophy changed? Is that a litmus test for you now for progressives?
No, well, I do find it interesting that at this particular moment, when literally a woman's right to choose is right at stake, that we have too many Democrats who are prepared to support a candidate in Texas who is one of the few anti-pro-choice members of Congress.
You're speaking of Henry Cuellar. You think that's a mistake?
Yeah, I do. And I think I'm supporting Jessica Cisneros down there. I hope she wins. I'm supporting Summer Lee in Pennsylvania. I hope she wins as well.
You think at this point, being pro-life, you can't be in the Democratic Party or in the Democratic coalition? Are you ready to go that far?
I mean, we will see. All that I can.
What was that? We will see, Bernie said. So Bernie Sanders just told you he thinks it's a mistake that Nancy Pelosi, well, maybe didn't say their names, but the people are Nancy Pelosi and Jim Clyburn that have chosen to endorse Henry Cuellar instead of Jessica Cisneros, and Henry Cuellar is pro-life. He's a Democrat. He's a conservative Democrat, whatever the fuck that's supposed to mean. But they have chosen to support him. But at the same time, the Democratic Party in D.C. is telling people we need to codify Roe v. Wade into law. So they're saying one thing, but their actions are showing you something different. So he said he doesn't think that's a good idea. Now, Chuck Todd goes on to ask him, do you think that you shouldn't be pro-life and be a part of the Democratic Party? Now, this is where he slips up. That's why I say you got to watch it.
Jessica Cisneros down there. I hope she wins. I'm supporting Summer Lee in Pennsylvania. I hope she wins as well.
You think at this point, being pro-life, you can't be in the Democratic Party or in the Democratic coalition? Are you ready to go that far?
I mean, we will see. All that I can.
We will see. Anybody else confused by this? That response compared to what he just gave. So that's Bernie Sanders letting you know right there that if push come to shove and the Democratic Party wants to go in that direction, let's say Jessica Cisneros, it's a close race. And from what I've seen so far with the poll numbers, it looks pretty close. But let's say the Democratic Party says, no, we got to go with Henry. This is why Bernie telling you we'll see. Because Bernie Sanders knows that there's some Democrats in D.C. that are pro-life. Do you think that's what Bernie really feels? Do you think he really feels, we'll see? No, I think Bernie Sanders really feels like saying, no, if you're a pro-life, you shouldn't be in the Democratic Party. But I'm pretty sure he knows what he can and cannot say.
Can say is I think you have the overwhelming majority of people who consider themselves to be Democrats to be pro-choice. I have been pro-choice my entire life, and the candidates that I am supporting now are all pro-choice. Look, a woman's right to control her own body is really on the line, and we've got to do everything we can to defend that right.
Last question: Are you definitely going to rule out ever being a presidential candidate again, or if there's an open race in 2024, could you?
Why did I think you might ask that question?
Well, Faz Shakur wrote it in his memo.
You don't look. No politician I know rules out, all options. Everything is on the table. But, right now my focus is to do everything that I can to elect candidates to Congress who are going to stand up and fight for working families in this coming midterm election.
Fair enough, Senator Bernie.
Okay. I don't know why they asked Bernie that question. Why did you ask him that question, Chuck Todd, whether or not Bernie would consider running for president again? Why? So you can invite him on your show and smear him like you did last time? Now all of a sudden Chuck Todd is trying to pretend like he actually cares. He's actually being considerate here. Are you thinking about it? You might run again another time, or what are you thinking about? Why? So you can attack him? So you can call him a socialist? By the way, that's not a bad term. Hello? So you can sit up there and call him names and lie about the plans and the issues so that you can tell people they want to take your health insurance away. Please get out of here. I wanted to show you that clip because I want you to see, even though Bernie Sanders is independent, he's still, for the most part, going along with the talking points of the Democratic Party. Those are the people that they want in DC. They don't want people who are going to go rogue. I'm going to go to some of the comments and then I'll get that one on Rockfin. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. I don't think Dole would want to give mental health days to those upset about Dems passing gun laws. Agree or disagree, they should get them too. Exactly. Everybody. Just everybody. I don't like means testing. And that's something I really like. I didn't like it with the stimulus check either. I was like, dude, just give it to everybody. Give them the boot. Sabby, I don't share that people, especially my management. Why share my info when you only see me as another set of hands to overwork? Agreed. Agreed. People used to be like, how come you don't really, you don't talk that much about your personal life? No, I don't, because you motherfuckers talk too damn much. LPA film. He threw the movement under the bus along with what was left of his campaign. I agree. Notori says, I love what Bernie Sanders did for the movement, but I would never vote for him again, especially after seeing him on his knees for Jim Crow Joe. Well said. AJF, thank you for the super chat. Sociopathy is a prerequisite in succeeding in corporate and political fields in the USA. My estimation, opinion, of course. Interesting. Thank you for the super chat, The Traveler. Joe Biden endorsed cinema back in 2018 too. Yep. Yes, he did. He did. Thank you for the super chat, Brothwaite. Cinema and Munchkin are useful foils for the DNC and Bernie to claim that their hands are tied. Political kabuki theater. Do you guys remember during Obama's presidency, it was Lieberman? Yes. See, there's someone every time. During Obama's presidency, it was Lieberman was the one. He was the rotating villain. JB said Bernie is pushing the rotating villain like the Democratic Party wants. Yep. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. It's one thing if you're anti-choice and pro-working class. It's another thing if you're anti-choice and anti-working class. Interesting. Laura says the burn is financially set, just like all the other uniparty ring kissers. They all live fat, happy lives with great health care. Damn. Yeah, they have good health care, you guys. Thank you for the super chat, AJF. Mark my words, if Democrats do not explicitly explain how they are going to do something, they likely intend not to do it. Keep in mind Roe v. Wade. Thank you so much for that as well. And I'll go ahead and take that comment on Rockfin as well. Thank you for the tip on Rockfin, Roger. Kit was just talking about doctors being against Medicare for all, mostly because it will affect their pockets, and that it would cause donors to leave the practice. Rogan should talk to the nurses. If doctors who are more concerned about being elitist than healers, fine, leave. Outside of surgeons and anesthesiologists, who actually do labor, nurses do most of the work, make them doctors. That is true. That is true. They should also talk to nurse practitioners. That's becoming more of a trend now too, is they're asking people, especially here, like in Boston, they're actually been encouraging people to become nurse practitioners instead of doctors. Thank you for this tip as well. This election will show the Dems what people care about more. Liberal issues as they pertain to culture, aka Roe v. Wade, or having leverage in the workplace via unions and empowerment in the workplace via worker co-ops and having a paycheck that stays permanently above the cost of living, fair market rent and inflation. Still waiting for that minimum wage show you promised me last fall, Sabs, climate corruption, etc. Thank you for reminding me, Roger. I forgot. I told you I forget this stuff. Thank you for this tip as well. Yes, Sabs, it is always a Joe that is in the way. Joe Lieberman, Joe Biden, Joe Manchin, G.I. Joe, all the Joes. Ha! I love it. I love it, Roger. Well said. Well said. All right. Guys, join me tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Jill Stein's going to be here. I have a lot to talk to her about. You don't want to miss that. I want to hear her opinion about steps forward in reference to where we should go with electoral politics. So you guys know Jill Stein ran for president 2016. She ran against, Hillary Clinton and Trump, and they tried to smear her. So I want to hear her perspective and her experience running as a third party candidate. I know that's something we've talked about often on this show. How can you be successful, right? Jill Stein was on the ballot in 48 states. How did she do that? So I'm going to talk to her tomorrow. Should be a really good show. Friday, Whole Washington will be here, guys. They are going to talk about their ballot initiative that they're working on right now in Washington State to try to get universal health care for everyone. So it should be a really cool week show-wise. Thank you for the super chat, Stephen R. Chuck Todd. Hillary, what was your position when Obama wanted to replace RBG before you lost that election? Sorry, that was a dream. Yikes. Randy says, just say no to Joe's. All of them. Oh my God. I didn't realize that until Roger pointed that out, but it's true. It's all Joe's. Joe. LPA film, Jill Stein, Jesse Ventura, Chris Hedges, 2024. That would be epic. I really think third party, we need someone big. Someone big, like a Chris Hedges, like a Jesse Ventura. Laura says, are you going to talk to her about the League of Women Voters and the debates? I don't know what the I is. I'm sorry. Maybe I misread it. Thank you for the super chat, Carl. Nothing will ever be done for the people unless corporations can make money. The government is not there to help. The government is there to keep people down. It's a good point, Carl. Good point. Well, I hope you guys had fun with me tonight. That is that. I don't know what I'm going to do now. I'm still trying to catch up on Arrow and The Flash on Netflix, but my husband and I watched that together, and he's doing gaming right now, so guess I won't be watching that. What should I watch, you guys? Any cool shows on Netflix or Hulu I should watch? Let me know. I'm curious. I need something to watch. I don't know. I usually just watch YouTube. I'm not even kidding. Like, read a book tonight. I could do that too. Ooh, Lorena said The Witcher. I haven't seen that. I could check that out. Outer Banks, good stuff. I haven't seen that yet either, although I'm very familiar with the actual Outer Banks. I went to high school in North Carolina. Dr. Strangelove. What's that about? I don't know. You're not old enough to enjoy Grace and Frankie? Who's Grace and Frankie? I don't know if Ruthless. Oh, Oh, Better Call Saul is back. Yes. Thank you for the reminder, Lorez. Guys, it's been like 2 years. 2 years, a year and a half, like 2 years. I've been waiting. Like, this is the final season. Yes, 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 yes. Thank you for the reminder. Someone answered me just a second ago. I don't know where it went. Oh, Tim, it's a dark comedy about nuclear war. Ooh, that might be interesting. That might be interesting. You have to watch Doctor Strange Love, Sabby. All right, I'll check it out, you guys. Hey, that's more than one person telling me that. All right. All right. I know, Tony, Severance is one of the best shows I've seen. It's Apple Plus, or I know. So many people told me to watch that, but I can't get another streaming service. I don't have Apple Plus. Balls. Thank you for the super chat, Andrew. Go to HBO Max and watch The Dark Knight Returns Part 1. It's based off the graphic novel that changed Batman forever. Warning, though, it's graphic. Sabby don't really like a lot of graphic. I don't like people's like heads and stuff, like and bloods and guts, and I don't like too much of that. Although I did watch Breaking Bad. Oh man. I couldn't stop that show. Oh yeah, I say that sometimes. Hey, you high balls. It means like crap or shoot, shucks. Law-abiding citizen. Oh, you guys are giving me some great suggestions here. I'll have to check some of these out. Thanks so much, John, to Emily. I love the show, Sabby. Thank you so much. Man. Someone just said Outer Range. I think I saw like a preview for that. Outer Range was good. Man. I'm waiting for Manifest to come back too. That was like, I really love that show. Like I couldn't stop watching that one. So I'm waiting for that next season to come back. Terry Hinton said Girlfriends. I could revisit that. I used to watch that when it was still on TV, but I could revisit it. I do that sometimes. All right, guys. I really do need to jet. So thanks for hanging out with me tonight, guys. Come back tomorrow. Jill Stein will be here. Should be a great discussion. And that is all she wrote. Have a good night. Keep up the fight.